What's going on, everybody? Need to talk about my Celtics here. They finish up their series against the Heat, win it 4-1, 5 games, gentleman's sweep, moving on to the second round. A lot of Celtics fans before, when they found out that the Heat were going to be the first round opponent, didn't want to see them. I was prominent with I wanted to see the Heat round one against the Celtics, and Jason Tatum backed it up because Jason Tatum also said because of last year and what happened against the Heat, he knew that by the Celtics playing the Heat, they couldn't necessarily take the first round off like they did against Atlanta. Because Atlanta last year took them, I think, 6 games, and a lot of people, if you looked at both rosters, they had no business going 6 games. And Tatum basically let you know it's because they kind of, throttled down a bit, went through the motions. So he knew with the Heat, with their background, the culture, all that stuff, they would be locked in. And I'll give you some stats later on in the video to kind of show you just how locked in the Celtics were. But these three right here are definitely the stars of the series for me. I mean, Tatum and Brown, you kind of understand that. But Derek White did his thing in this series. I know there's been reports before, like I think Brad Stevens says he's going to try to keep Derek White in Boston. I'm hoping that gets done as soon as however far they go in this playoff run. The very next day after everything's over with, I would love to see breaking news, Derek White re-signs, I don't know, 3-4 years, whatever. Because I just feel like he's really come into his own in this, his second season in Boston. And if these playoffs against the Heat so far are any indication of what he's going to be able to do the rest of this run, he's just going to be that much more invaluable. So I feel like Brad Stevens will do what he has to do to keep him. But looking at their series, Derek White gave you 22-4. I have it written down. 22-4-3. 22 points, 4 rebounds, 3 assists. I feel like next couple of rounds or something, I feel like the assist number might come up a little bit, but it's fine. He gave you more than enough in terms of scoring. Shot 48% from the three-point line. You'll take that any day. You obviously can't expect that number to stay there over the course of the playoff run, but he hit key shots. The Tatum and Brown allowed him to go off, especially in the last 2 games. I mean, Tatum only took, 9 shots in Game 5? Because he knew Derek White had it going. And that's something I definitely love about Jason Tatum, especially like the second half of the season. I actually could kind of say more or less this whole season. He stepped back in terms of points per game, but up the rebounds, up the assists. Love seeing that from him, even though some people were like talking about his points per game going down, and what does that mean? Whatever. But yeah, Derek White, I feel like he had a really good series. Can't really argue anything against him. Like I said, played great defense on the ball, and gave you the scoring, all that. Yeah, A+ for Derek White. Jaylen Brown. The one knock about Jaylen Brown I gotta say is I don't know what's going on with the free throws. Weird. He's shooting like 45%. I think over the course of the season he's more like a 75, 76 type of free throw shooter. For some reason, this series was terrible. But looking overall at his numbers, he also averaged 23. He was the Celtics' leading scorer in this series. 23, 7 boards, 2 assists. Love it. He shot 52% from the field. Take that all day. And he played good defense as well. So he showed you the two-way performer that he is. Have no complaints other than the free throw shooting, but I feel like he'll get that kind of figured out. It seemed like towards the end of Game 5, he started making some free throws, so maybe he's gotten out of whatever struggles he had early on. But thirdly, I want to talk about Jason Tatum. Like I said, He averaged 22, so the same as Derek White, which means you got 23, 22, 22. That's 67 points from these three. You'll take that because we know that today's league, outside of Phoenix, you have your great duo, then your pieces around them. So you have Tatum Brown as your duo. Derek White in this series was the best of the others. And they'll need this kind of production if they're going to get through the grind of the playoffs. And depending on who comes out of the West, even though I feel like a lot of people are going to be leaning towards a certain team out in Colorado, they're going to need multi forms of attack. So these three, if they can keep it up greatly, I would love to see it. Tatum, 22. More importantly, 10 rebounds a game. Love that. And then the 5 assists, I'll take that as well. So I feel like Tatum showed you a diverse way that he affected the game. Scoring wise, like I said, some people will look at the 22 and say he had an off series. And yes, shooting wise, I think he shot like 39% from the field. But I don't think, because of the way this team is constructed, that that's necessarily a terrible thing as long as he's giving you the rebounding and the assist and the playmaking. So these three carried them. Love that. But it was not all good, as we did have to kind of deal with the Porzingis injury, which, I mean, all season, that's all people talked about. When will Porzingis get injured? Porzingis injury history and all that. It reared its ugly head. Game 3 down in Miami. He, down on the offensive end, stepped on Tyler Hero's foot, rolled his ankle. I believe it was the very next trip down the floor. He's setting a ball screen, like a handoff with Jaylen Brown. It was dribble handoff. That's what he was doing. And he just pulled up. Immediately waved over to Missoula, said he had to come out. He gingerly walked over to the bench, put the jersey over his head, so he clearly knew something was an issue. We later learned that it was a calf strain, which then later learned it was that dreaded soleus. Never heard of the injury until this season, because that's the same thing Giannis has dealt with. And Giannis has been out since April 9th. So it could be a situation where Porzingis might be out until the NBA Finals, which we'll see, how that works out. Maybe there's like different grades to it. So if Porzingis has a much less mild version of it than Giannis, maybe he can come back in a couple of weeks. I don't know. We'll definitely have to see what the updates are about all that. But yeah, Porzingis going out wasn't the best thing. He was kind of struggling a little bit in terms of scoring against the Heat, but we know the value that he brings. So I'd love to see him come back very quickly, but make sure that definitely don't want to play with the calf though. If he comes back too soon, calf strain could turn into an Achilles injury, which definitely don't need. So, the Celtics will have to kind of carry on without him for a little bit. Let's go ahead and talk about the other side of this. Heat culture. Now, look, I said at the start of the video, I knew going into this series what was going to happen. The Heat were going to try to bait the Celtics into, ejections, technical fouls, stuff like that to aid them in these games. Because look, I looked at the numbers and everything. Game 2, the game that the Heat won, you clearly saw what was happening there. The Celtics won game 1 pretty convincingly. Went into game 2 like, this team's not on our level. The Heat had a really good three-point shooting night to the tune of 54% from 3. That's what they shot in game 2. Do you know what they shot in every other game? So games 1 and 3, I believe they shot 32%, which not good. It's not great. It's not horrific. It's whatever. Then games 4 and 5, the 3-point shooting absolutely, leapt off a cliff. Game 4, they shot 27%. And then game 5, they shot a blistering 10% from 3. So that lets you know that when the Celtics were engaged in games 1 and then 3 through 5, the Heat could do nothing offensively from the perimeter, which is why we saw some pretty, convincing scores when the Celtics won. And then look, even in that game 2, when the Heat shot ridiculously well from 3, they won that game 111 to 101. So the Celtics were kind of in it, even with the Heat having that great of a night. So a lot of people panicked after game 2 and talked about, this series might go 6 or 7 now. Celtics are playing around. It was a wake-up call. That's what game 2 was. That's why I wanted the Heat to face the Celtics in round 1. Because I predicted the Heat in 6. But I wasn't one of those who thought like it was a series that I'd be fearful of. No. So looking at the Heat, the one person I'll probably say that performed night in and night out for the Heat, Bam Adebayo. I'll give him that. He averaged 23, 9, and 4, which is up from his regular season average in terms of scoring. He averaged 19 a game. So he raised his level during this first round series. For a lot of stretches, he was the offense. He was bringing the ball up. He was, at the free throw line, which is where he likes to operate. He posted up a little bit. So he did all that. He did what he tried to do to help the team, but not a lot of help other places. The other guy I feel like that was supposed to show up, Tyler Hero. Like I said, I did watch alongs for games 1 and 2. Couldn't do 3. Couldn't do 4 and 5. Didn't really have interest in doing a watch along because by then kind of knew what was happening. The Heat were done by then. But anyway, so Hero gave 17, 4, and 5. His regular season average, he dropped 21 a game. So a whole 4 points per game, he dipped in scoring. So there was no chance the Heat were going to survive that. He struggled to shoot from the perimeter most of these games. It seems like the only time he could hit a bucket was garbage time, which, great, doesn't really do much for the game. So Tyler Hero, non-factor. Caleb Martin was their third leading scorer. He averaged 12 points, 4 rebounds, and an assist, although that's up from 10 points a game in the regular season. But yeah, that kind of production was never going to beat this Celtics team. And we kind of saw what we saw. So looking at those advanced stats that some people hate, I'm okay with it. It does tell a bit of a story. So, like I said, the defense of the Celtics, when they were locked in, the Heat could do nothing. Once again, that game 2, when the Heat shot ridiculously well from 3, the Celtics defensive rating was 121. That's not Celtics like, because during the regular season, their defensive rating was 112, which was 3rd in the league. So obviously that was terrible defensive night in game 2. Game 1, 109. That's better than their league average. Well, better than their rating during the regular season. Then from there, it got even better because game 3, 101, game 4, 96, and then game 5, their defensive rating was 89. That's elite level team defense. With this Heat team and kind of most teams in the NBA, because of the Celtics and the variety of their perimeter defenders, they kind of switch on everything. And none of these Heat players were necessarily playmakers for themselves. So the Celtics were able to stay in front of them, force them into shots that they didn't necessarily want to take, which is why the defensive rating just steadily got better throughout the series. The I mean, the defense just stifles the Heat. Is what it is, right? So the Heat go home. Once again, no Jimmy Butler. I get it. Now the Terry Rozier part, I like Terry Rozier. He's a guy you don't have to worry about effort, anything like that. But we have seen some playoffs with him where he's thrown up some stinkers, where he becomes like a volume shooter and everything like that. So I don't really know how much of a factor he would have had in this series because, like I said, Drew Holiday, Derek White were playing great defense in the backcourt. Butler, I mean, you've seen enough videos from me to know how I feel about Butler, but it's a series that the Celtics were supposed to win. They got the job done. Now we can move on to potential opponents. So we have the Cavs or the Magic. The Cavs lead that series 3-2. Game 6 is Friday night. I believe if the Cavs win and the series, game 1 would be Sunday 1 o'clock, I think. If the Magic win, force a game 7, Celtics and the winner of game 7 wouldn't meet until Tuesday, which, look, that's just more days for Porzingis to aid the calf, more days for Tatum, who's probably a little sore from that bump by Caleb Martin. Just all guys considered, the extra days off, they probably would love it. I mean, looking at the two of them, each pose interesting matchups. Like Orlando, I feel like what we've seen in this series is that Orlando might not be ready for this stage yet. But then again, they could win the next two, and I would give them all the credit in the world. Banchero's had some good games against Cleveland. I feel like the Wagners have played well. It's just that the Magic go through stretches during games where they get a little out of control, turnover happy, and that's where they get in trouble. So we'll have to see if Orlando can win game 6, force a game 7, because who doesn't love a game 7 in the playoffs? And then for Cleveland, the interesting part for the Celtics would be now with the Porzingis injury. We know the Cavs do the double big with Mobley and Allen, although Allen missed last game with a rib injury. So we'll have to see what that does for him going forward in this series, and if they do advance for round 2 against the Celtics. But it'll be interesting to see what Mazzulla would do against the double big lineup without Porzingis. So obviously Horford would start, and then how would he use the lineups against a Cleveland team? The Donovan Mitchell aspect of it, I guess it'd be fun to see Derek White, Drew Holiday go up against he and Garland as well in the backcourt. I honestly would give the edge to the Celtics there defensively against Mitchell and Garland. But with Mitchell, he could go off a game or two just hitting, crazy shot after crazy shot, keeping the Cavs in it. And I feel like the Cavs probably posed a bigger threat to the Celtics. But I did pick Orlando to win this series before the playoffs start, so I'm still hoping for the Magic to pull it out, only because I like seeing newer teams break through, have some playoff success. Obviously, if the Magic do get through, I'm only hoping for them to win the first round and then lose in the second round to the Celtics, of course. But I feel like it'd be a fun matchup either way. Like I said, picked Orlando before the playoffs. So I have to stick with it at this point. Although I part of me does think that Cleveland finishes out on Friday, and then we're looking at game 1 Celtics Cavs in Boston Sunday at 1, which Sunday early games are usually tough for me to do, but it's probably a situation where when I do get home, I would probably stream. Well, do a watch along. I can't say stream because you might tune in and expect me to actually show the game. Can't do that for the reasons why. But yeah, a watch along, whether it's second half of game 1, I will definitely be ready for the second round series when it does get underway. But yeah, that's what I got. You let me know how you felt about the series, whether or not you think the Celtics were impressive against the Heat, and who do you think the Celtics? Well, I guess using the two teams, which team would the Celtics have a better chance against, and which team might give the Celtics more of an issue between Orlando and Cleveland? But yeah, that's all I got for you. Appreciate you tuning in. Hope you liked the video. Share, follow, subscribe, all that good stuff. And like I said, Sunday, I'll try to get the watch along going for game 1 if it's Cleveland. If the game is on Tuesday, it's going to be tough because I do a podcast on Tuesday, but we'll see. But yeah, I will be doing a Patriots draft reaction video this weekend. Then other playoff thoughts with the first round kind of finishing up here, and then give you my predictions for round 2. So there should be plenty of content coming this weekend. But thanks again. Appreciate you. Be safe. God bless. I'll see you next video. All right. I'm out of here. Enjoy the rest of your day. All right. Bye.